Hello and welcome to the Washingtonville Soccer Club Studios. This is Coach Attila Nyiri, Director of Coaching, and our guest today is Colin Hodge, the head coach of Dominican College Division II School. And we will ask him a few questions about the players that he needs and about everything that he believes is very important for a college-bound player to have. Colin, welcome to our studio.
Thank you, Attila.
The first question I wanted to ask you, as stated before, is what are the kind of players that you are looking for while you're recruiting?
When I'm recruiting, we always go out there, me and my staff, and we look for the proper players. It's important that these prospective student athletes are able to have the proper techniques to play the game, the technical ability, because that's where it all starts from. And they learn that from the young ages, and then hopefully by the time they get ready for college, you can see that whether they're a right back, a center midfielder, a center defender, every person's going to have different techniques and different technical abilities, and it's important that they can apply those into the game. So that's what I look for. Each position is different. And when we go out there, we also look for the kids that would fit our program. So every time we go out, it's important that we see these kids and we try to get as many looks at them as possible. We go to all the tournaments. Nice thing about Division II is we can actually have the student athlete come and train with our team, where you can't do that in Division I, Division III.
Thank you. The second question that I want to ask on behalf of the parents is, what do you think that a player that's college bound needs in the perspective of being prepared to enter a Division I or Division II school?
Well, here in America, the game is a little more physical than in some other countries. So it's faster paced. It's very athletic. You want your student athletes to be prepared for that. Some kids come in as a freshman and they can handle it right away. Others can't. So I think it's really important that these kids are able to juggle a schedule, that they're prepared for the demands of the game. It's very demanding in the sense that you have practice every single day, you have games at least twice a week. So it's tough, but the student athletes have to be prepared for that. They have to manage their schedules, their time very well, because they're also, they're taking classes, and it's the first time that a lot of them are away from their parents. So I think managing their schedule and finding ways to fit everything in and have a good balance is very important for these kids.
Next question would be, that comes from the previous question, is how good of a student are you also looking for? And for example, for your school in particular, how important a good grade point average is besides being a soccer player?
Well, besides being a soccer player, it's really, really important that these kids are good students, because everything usually comes down to money. A lot of parents want scholarships, and for college programs, it's not really ideal. I have 26 kids on my roster, and I only have a certain amount of scholarships. I don't have 26 athletic scholarships. So it's really, really important that the kids are doing well in school. The difference of a kid that has maybe a 2.2 GPA or a kid that has a 3.6 GPA coming in as a freshman, the kid with a 3.6 is getting $15,000 academically, and the kid with a 2.2, you're looking at $4,000. So it's really important that they're good students, and they're able to, and you can tell that if you have a kid that is disciplined to do his academics, you'll know that they'll be disciplined to do the things on the field and what you ask of them. But it's very, very important that these kids they're getting good grades, they're taking the SATs, and they're doing all that stuff.
I would also like to know from you, because you are also a youth soccer coach, what is your opinion? What is the age where players should just concentrate on one sport, making soccer their principal sport in order for them to later either succeed for a collegiate level or a professional level?
Yeah, this is always a tough question, especially for kids in America. For me, I played other sports as well. I played baseball and I did some skiing because I grew up in a state where there was skiing. But when I was about 12 years old, I decided that, soccer was the sport I needed to be, and I think it could be a little bit younger, 10 to 12, I would say 10 to 13 years old. If you go anywhere past 12, 13 years old, these kids will really miss out on the technical ability. It's important that at those young ages they get those technical abilities, but in other sports, if they're young, maybe basketball, there's some similarities to soccer and they can pick up some athleticism from those, but it is important at 12, 13 years old, I think, that they just focus on soccer, and because if you continue to play these other sports while there's kids that are just playing soccer alone, you'll really fall behind on the technical ability. And at the college level, if you can't use the technique and apply it to the game, you're going to struggle big time, because the speed of play, the thought process, everything like that is a lot faster, a lot quicker, and if you can't do those things with the proper technique, you're going to fall behind.
At our club, we always emphasize, and I always tell my players that there is no secret for success, there's only a price for success. And I always say that the price for success is 10 years, 3-4 hours a day, whereas in the past it used to be 5-6 hours a day. For example, when Johan Cruyff was asked 20 years ago when he was a kid how much time he invested in soccer, he said 10 years, 5 to 6 hours. Then as we approaching our modern times, the newer times, Landrup only said 4 to 5 hours. When it got to Stoichkov, he was always at 4 to 5 hours, 3 to 4 hours. What would you say that we are getting at now in order to become tremendous players? How much you think we should invest a player, not necessarily just playing, but watching videos and being with friends and going in the park and playing alone and always with a ball?
Yeah, this is really, really important. To put a time limit on it, I don't know exactly an hour of how many hours a week they should be doing it, but they should be out 3-4 times a day, 3-4 times a week practicing. If you're with your club team 2 days a week, maybe 3 days a week, then you should be doing stuff either with a group of friends or with individuals. I grew up in a very, very small town, and we didn't have a lot of soccer where I grew up, and the way I was able to develop my techniques was me and my friends would go to the park and we'd just kick some long balls, or we'd kick the ball off a wall, and we'd play silly games, but it helped us to develop as young players. And I think today with the youth, that's where we fall out of a lot of it. Kids are consumed with electronics and other things like that, when they could be going out to the park and just for a pickup game, or just with a friend, or even by themselves. I think that individualism and that friend, if you go out there and you do stuff on your own outside of your team practices, is where you're really going to develop some things, try some things. A lot of practices these days, you might get some good quality hours in, like you're saying, but it might be very structured, and you have to do this and you have to do that. Whereas a lot of coaches these days, they don't let kids think for themselves and try to figure out and solve problems by themselves. So I think that's where, going out to the park where you're friends is somewhere where you can try things and not be told, oh, you need to do this or you need to do that, and you can learn things and develop as a young kid. So I think it's really, really important, that you get as many hours in as you can, and the players that love to play the game will find a way to do that.